Major changes on the basketball side. What happens if we beat Michigan? 50% chance Daniel O'Neal's our starting quarterback next year. We got your mailbag questions, and we're going to dive into every single one of them. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. And I'm coming in with energy because we have a bunch of your comments and questions to get to. It is Mailbag edition. We got Justin, we got Ryan. I'm your host, Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you get $5 and you get $300 in bonus bets if you win. To use across the app, download that app today. And we're just getting your mailbag questions. We are starting off with, we got questions on the Discord. We got questions on Twitter. I'm going to loop these first two ones in together. Oh, by the way, that's Justin over there. He's on the Bucket Report. Go check him out. I'm going to loop these first two together, Justin.
All right.
Nick Hitchens, good friend of the show, says Penney out, Davison in, ? And Adam Key says, how worried should we be about offensive B-ball drop-off with Kirk gone? I feel like this is a big deal, but maybe not. What are your thoughts here?
I think it really depends on how much insight Penney actually had into the day-to-day on it, or whether it was more of he pitched an idea in terms of offensive philosophy to guard, that guard took and ran with it. That's where I think it really comes down to, was he the day-to-day guy, or was he more of like a consultant? Like, well, have you thought about this? It is going to affect things, because where you're going to see it is if the things aren't working quite the way you want them to, the voice is just different in the room. And Davison, for as nice of a player as he was here, I have no idea what his idea of offense and stuff like that is. I mean, Penney has been away from Wisconsin for a while. Davison really hasn't. So he's cutting his teeth as a coach. Penney's been around basketball outside of Wisconsin for 15 years, something like that.
He played internationally for a long time. No, Davison has played some internationally, but he doesn't have the length of time doing that a guy like Kirk Penney did. First of all, I mean, Kirk Penney, incredible job, right? He's going home to be closer to family businesses, like 100%. Go be close to family. That makes a ton of sense. I wish him all the best. Great Badger. I'm a little worried because I'm not sure this staff. The thing with Penney is he had guards trust, but he was also kind of unique from the Bo Ryan Gray guard idea and philosophy. So he could bring something in, but be a trusted voice so it would get implemented. I'm not sure we have an offensive guy on this staff right now, and that kind of worries me just a little bit. The other part of this that I would point out is, like, we were really pivoting into New Zealand recruiting, So I think that I wonder if that is kind of done now. You had Jackson Ball, you had those guys coming in.
I don't think so. You know what? I think that's something that Penney is still going to be kind of, bending guards' ears, saying, hey, I've seen this guy. You might want to check him out, kind of thing. Now, from the recruiting perspective, yeah, I'm sure Penney had somewhat of a role associated with that probably goes out the window. He's going to be probably a little more hands-off with things like that going forward.
I really like Davison as a culture guy. Yeah, like he's going to come in. He loves the program. Like he's going to be a great culture guy. He knows hoops. Really successful player, obviously. It just, to me, it goes back to, I hope that they replace the offensive acumen on the staff.
Yeah.
Because that was a big part of where this team was going. And Penney was a big engine in that. All right. Anything else you want to add there?
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think time will tell on this, but we don't, like, Davison is very much an unknown. Whereas we've now have a couple of years under our belt of watching, Penney be associated with the team and how his effect on how offensively how things have changed. So, yeah, it's really, to me, are you going to continue with this, or do you regress somewhat now because you don't have necessarily that voice in the room anymore?
It's going to be interesting to see. Mitch says guard obviously has high basketball IQ. I think he has understanding what he wants to do for sure. Will says, love Brad. Agree on Penney loss being big. I think even Brad would agree. All right, let's get into our next question here. Again, we have a bunch of stuff here. Robert Swartzen, what one former Badger player would you put on this football team to turn it around? I'm going to say non-quarterback, because I think quarterback, it's almost too easy to just say, we'll throw Russell Wilson on this team.
Oh, man.
I mean, for me, it's Joe Thomas. Like, I don't even think about it. left tackle, offensive line, Joe Thomas. Yes.
I don't know how much he fixes the line. That's the problem.
I guess, I mean, I think we're saying it when they were in their prime, right? Obviously, not like current. Yeah. Listen, you have Thomas on the left side. You flip Malman to the right side. You're infinitely better.
Okay. That's probably fair. I think if you're not going with that, you have to pick somebody that'd be an absolute. Yeah, Travis Frederick. That's probably a good one. Streamer, I'm going with that one. I think if you put somebody in the middle of the line that's actually just a dominant force, and Frederick absolutely was, that changes things.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that would absolutely help with the run game. So, yeah, I think I agree with that one. Do you see people going with like Melvin Gordon being mentioned? I would feel bad. Not that he wouldn't do some things that would still be incredible again with this offensive line. It's just it would be hard sledding a lot of the time. There would just be times when randomly the line does nothing for him and he still finds a way to make a play.
Could I interest you in a Jamar Fletcher, perhaps a cornerback for your taste as well? With his
I think I would go front seven before I would do that. I need somebody that I know is going to consistently bring me pressure.
I think it's offensive line all day for me, though. I'm going Joe Thomas. Certainly, Frederick makes a ton of sense. Like, I would solidify that big hog molly group up front. All right, next one we got here. I love this one from Pizzle, man. More or less than a 50% chance Danny is QB1 next year. Meaning, no, you're not going on and finding a big portal guy.
I would say less right now. I don't know what we're gonna see. Maybe you end up with, going with the redshirt freshman and Carter. I just don't think we've seen enough. The arm strength still scares me a little bit. He tends to get a little flighty, and he tends to jump the pocket a little bit more than he should. It's such a broken system right now. It's hard for me to really be too hard on Danny O'Neil, but he's got to show better film. Like, you've got to prove that you're a capable player. And right now, this is a really tough sledding going forward. And he's probably, I know that we have Edwards listed as the starter for this week. I would be shocked if he plays. Like, every time you do this, it feels like you give him a setback. And I just don't trust that he's probably healed enough at this point. And stop messing with it. Like, if he's not 100%, don't play him.
Dude, 100. I mean, like, we'll say if he's not like 90-something percent, because nobody's really 100% at this point, but he wasn't close to 90-something percent against Maryland. So
he's maybe 60.
Yeah, don't play him, please, and unless he's ready to go. I'm gonna say less on this as well. I think they're gonna go to the portal, whether it's Fickell or not. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna go into next season with Danny O'Neil and Carter Smith as their top two guys. I just don't think you can.
Do you think Danny's gone if that's the case?
I don't know. I think he actually has some fight in him. That's the thing about Danny I kind of like. And he's still pretty young. Let's say you go to the portal and you get a senior, like Billy or Tanner.
I think I agree with you. The one thing I would say is if somehow you have Carter jump him or push where they're in a battle to see who gets that spot, he might see the writing on the wall and say, the younger guy with better tools is going to jump me. And just say it makes sense for me to find a place where I can play. Badger man, Ryan Hopkins will not start next year. I love the kid's tools. He's got some work to do yet. He's going to be a couple years before he's ready to play.
All right, let's take a break for our friends of the show. Come back. We got a bunch more of your questions to get into. We have to take a quick second for our great and incredible friends of the show, but lots more of your questions to come back to on Locked On Badgers today. First, a quick second, friends of the show over at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every single ride, including top safety picks, footwork. You have incredible custom details everywhere, craftsmanship in every detail, metallic accents, Napa leather upholstery. So you have all the finer things in life as you get from point A to point B. So you arrive and you feel like you did something in something that is catered to you. It's doing more than just getting you to that point. It's helping move you. Like every single player, Mazda sweats every single detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by Monarch Money. Monarch Money is like that little voice inside my head, that little angel on my shoulder that says, hey, Ryan, maybe you don't need to get that Jerry Rice rookie card this month. Have you looked at your Monarch Money recently? And I'll be like, no, Monarch Money, I haven't. And Monarch Money's like, well, you don't have the money for that. Monarch Money brings all your stuff into one spot. It's like a personal CFO with dashboards and incredible detail into all your spending habits. You can do it with your partner so you can set collaborative goals, and every type of investment you have comes together on Monarch Money. It is a great tool. Right now, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
I see you going, who asked you Monarch Money in that situation?
Oh, Monarch Money is usually right, though. I'm not going to lie. I already had the Jerry Rice rookie, so I was just doubling up. All right, let's get into this next one here. Let's go. Let's see. We did these. We did this one. Family Man tie. Should Rico be moved to slot? I'll start on this one. I don't think so. I think I understand the premise of the question, but for me, this would take Nizer Forkreen coming back or something like that, because who do you move to the other corner spot is my thing. I like the young pieces. I'm not fully ready for a full year of that.
Scanes and Scott are not ready to be going out there and being the guy. And Washington's been on campus for like a month and a half.
Yep.
So
Tyler says he should be moved to the bench. Listen, this is not a cruel thing to me at all. I like Rico, but if he doesn't start playing better, this is a business thing, and he has not been good enough this year. I think it comes back to who you replace him with, and I think you still like the veteran. He just hasn't been Rico, man. So
he's got to show fight, and if he doesn't start showing fight soon, you have to just pull him and say, "I'm going to take my lumps with the young guys, but they're at least giving effort." Because Rico's been bad.
I would not move him to the slot, though. To answer the question, Family Man's high. Evan M., what do you think happens if we beat Michigan? Do we then beat Iowa?
I would say you better. If you can find a way to beat Michigan at Michigan. Iowa's not very good. Like they've got a banged up quarterback and they really don't have much of a passing game. The defense is pretty good, but other than that, they don't really scare you offensively. It would be a battle of attrition with us playing them. And I'm not, by no means am I saying that we, are some vaunted offense here, but man, it would be like a battle of who could suck less on offense. And we'd be at home, which is definitely a plus factor, but we'd have to see a huge difference in this team at Michigan, because Michigan's going to come with NFL guys in the trenches. That's going to be a problem for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, I kind of agree with you. If we do beat Michigan, which, listen, I'm not calling, but that's the premise of this question from M&M. If you beat Michigan, I think that means you found that the formula you've tried to develop works. It means your rush defense is actually legit. Michigan has an incredible rushing offense. If you beat Michigan, that means you can legitimately say we have a real rush defense, which means you're going to spell trouble for any schools like Iowa. You are going to give Iowa's offense a lot of trouble because they're not going to be able to throw the ball and you can stop the run. So that's the first part. I would say the other part of this, because you almost have to wonder, well, if we beat Michigan, that means our offensive line coming out of the bye week got a little solidified. It has to. Otherwise, Michigan is just going to bulldoze us.
Yeah, they're going to just crush us, yep.
Which could very well happen. So I think if you beat Michigan, I do think you beat Iowa. Because I think if you beat Michigan, that means your formula is starting to come together. And then we're going to be happy.
I mean, that would be a pleasant surprise.
We could use it. Like, honest to goodness, we could use that.
We've had like 30 games of bad football play. We're due for at least a few good ones now.
Yeah, and Packers are coming off a tie. The Niners are coming off a loss for us. Like, we could just use some good football. What has been the MVP of this? Who has been the MVP of this team so far, Justin?
Probably Reiger. I'm trying to think of anyone. Maybe Allegro.
I would say it's probably Allegro for me. I can't even think of a guy in offense, man.
Yeah.
Is it Vinny?
Maybe Vinny. Vinny's got a couple of different touchdowns, a kick return. He's definitely the offensive guy. But on defense, it's Reiger's really high on the national list in terms of pressures, even though he's not getting home. But other than those two guys, I just don't know.
It feels like a sad question, right? When you have to like really search.
Yeah, I just, oh man, I know we talked about hoping that the bodies would make a difference on this defense, and it really just hasn't. Like, I think they're better defensively, and I just don't. Something is wrong with this pass rush, where I look at it and I'm just like, there's pieces here. Something is not being used, like implemented correctly in order to make this effective. Because I look at guys like Reiger, Cheeks, and I say these are not significantly different athletes than what we had under Leonard, but we were significantly better at rushing the passer. There's just no deception in what we're doing now.
Yeah, I almost feel like Tressel has gotten more deceptive this year.
He has to an extent, but not like what we're used to.
And we've also put teams in more third and longs and second and longs than we have in recent years, where we should be getting home a little easier. I do think Reiger, though, has legitimately looked pretty good. Tori says, will Billy Edwards just shut it down and come back next year? For me, as a Badger fan, I don't really want to bank on a quarterback that just lost a season to injury, like with a bum knee, and hope he comes back. That's no shot for me personally. It's no shot against Billy, but if that feels like a gamble, man, like we need healthy players, and we can't. I just don't feel like you can come back in the next year and say, well, I hope this is the year he stays healthy.
I don't want another senior. I would much rather have, if you're going to go to the portal or something like that, get somebody who's like a redshirt sophomore that you have a couple of years potentially with, and work with that, because you need somebody that you can build with on this team. And maybe that pisses off the young guys, but it doesn't mean they don't have opportunity. Everything's still on the table if you bring in that young guy. You're just getting somebody in that you hopefully have more than 1 year with. And whether that manifests into being the starter or not is hard to say.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, I was just looking at the comments, but I agree with you. Like, the 1 year rentals, it's tough. How about just develop the young quarterbacks, right? Like, how about develops, like Carter Smith was at one point a Michigan commit. He's a really talented young player.
He's the highest rated quarterback we've had since Mertz, and I think he's number 2 in Badger history, behind or just ahead of Bart Houston.
Yeah. That seems right to me. I mean, it checks with me. Like, at some point, you do have to develop the young guy at some point, and he will have been in the system for a year. He enrolled early. I don't know, man. If you're at a mid borderline senior quarterback in the portal, or let's develop Carter Smith. I mean, Carter Smith is by far the better option there if you can do it.
Did we sell our soul for to be the college football running back academy? Like, we just were like, we're going to trade every quarterback that we have for the next 50 years being good, or we won't be able to develop anybody with any real ceiling, but we're going to have incredible running backs for 20 years.
We do have some kind of injury curse going on right now.
I feel like we should have stumbled into a good quarterback by now. And maybe that was Cone, and we just haven't seen it since. But man, we have done the worst job of developing quarterbacks in college football.
Yeah, it's hard.
It doesn't matter which coaching staff.
Given the level of success we've had, and then you contrast that to the level of quarterback play we've had, you're not going to find a greater disparity in college football, in my opinion. Gregor says, I really like Pribula next year. Yeah, that's the type of guy. If you can go out and get a player who has some tools and has a couple years you can grow with, that's who you're kind of going for. All right, we got to take one more quick break here. Again, we have a bunch more comments to get into. We have some bangers, too, coming up. We're going to take one more quick second for our friends of the show. Plus, Justin, if you see anything in the chat you want to star, go ahead and do that. And we will be right back with more of your comments on this episode of Locked On Badgers Mailbag Edition. Today's episode brought to you by our good friends over at Square. Listen, everybody comes from some type of neighborhood, and there's always some type of coffee shop or local bar or local hangout, local breakfast joint. Or if we're talking Cumberland, Wisconsin, where I'm from, we got all those things. But some places don't have all of those. It's fine. But wherever you come from, Square has you covered with those neighborhood spots that make those neighborhoods absolutely incredible, because there are certain businesses that truly make a neighborhood feel like home. This is what Square has helped you, or this is what Square helps you connect with. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million businesses, neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Today's episode also brought to you by our incredible friends over at FanDuel. NFL obviously kicking off our full swing. NBA and college basketball a month and a half out. Baseball playoffs going on. College football. It is a great time. Again, if you're on the Brewers, and that's who I'm cheering for now because I have friends that are Brewers fans and the Braves stink. That's my team. So let's go Brew Crew. Get in on that action over on FanDuel. It's a great time to do it. New customers, $5 bet gets you $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Parlays, futures, which is, betting on how many games a team is going to win. Any type of action you want, money line, spread, parlay, it's all there on FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, let's bang into this next question here. We got a bunch to cover. Buddy, tough question, Evan. Based on the way college athletics are nowadays, will we ever get back to the type of team we were? Or are we always going to be a 6-6 or worse team?
Wisconsin still has considerably more resources than the bulk of college football. Like, the worst case scenario, we're probably a top 20 resources team. At some point, you will get somebody back in there who's capable of efficiently managing that and making good with it. I posed the question of on 247 chat saying, what if we moved to more of an NFL system at Wisconsin? You took the player personnel evaluation away from the coaching staff and just said, we're going to get a GM at Wisconsin. He's going to be in charge of the recruiting and like evaluation stuff in terms of who reaches out or like does the evaluations. And they go to the staff and kind of works like a pro scheme where you have the coaches will kind of sign off on guys, but you effectively have them under the staff. I think there's some ways Wisconsin can maximize this or at least do a better job of running this than trying to remain what we are now. And I just don't think I trust leadership in terms of like Mac in them, in terms of really understanding what it takes to be a top shelf program in this climate. I mean, you look at the teams that have massive administrative parts in terms of like Bama and Ohio State and everyone else who has these huge off-field staffs. And Wisconsin doesn't have that yet. And I think at some point you need to kind of be like, all right, we're going to be serious. We have these other jobs that are probably important to us to help us develop the program that in some ways hopefully takes some of the risk out of the coach and put the onus back on let's just be a really good program versus hiring a coach who makes you good.
I think the point I went with, and I just don't know if you're going to find the perfect marriage of an almost isolated player identifying arm and then a coaching arm. Like, I don't know if that's going to work great with a guy like Luke. I don't know. I think it has to be more aligned than that. I don't know if it can work quite that way in college sports. The other point I'll make quick, though, is I don't agree with the premise that Wisconsin can't get back to what they were because I see schools like Indiana do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all.
They don't have more resources than us. It's not close, to be honest.
Or history or tradition, like all credit to Cignetti. Like, you hit on a home run coach, but if they can do it, we can do it. And you have to develop players. You have to find players. You know what you can't do? You can't hire an offensive coordinator and then fire him 2 years later. You can't hire an offensive line coach that turns out can't coach the offensive line, Justin. Like that, when you look at some of the mistakes Wisconsin has made, well, of course you're not going to be successful. So I push back on that. I think Wisconsin can get back to where they were because I see other schools that I don't think are as an advantage spot as we are doing it.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you need to get away from flash and go back more to substance. And maybe that person doesn't look as good in terms of in front of the camera. And I realize we had some of that with Chris, but I'm talking about there are plenty of grinder types of guys who just kill it in terms of winning games in college football that maybe aren't the most, eloquent speakers. You don't have to have somebody who's Paul Chryst who says nothing, but, you look at the NFL coaches, how many guys that just have the most monotone, lame, interview sessions going on. You don't have to be a likable character in order to be an exceptional football coach. And Cignetti's got a lot of gravitas, but he wasn't well known before Indiana. Like, he won his press conference, and that basically skyrocketed him because it made everyone pay attention. Because I think there were a lot of people that were looking at him saying, I want to be able to hold this over his head if he's wrong on this. And he wasn't.
He crushed it. He crushed it. I mean, Scott Frost won his press conference at Nebraska too. Then he turned out to be terrible.
Which is why he got absolutely crushed when it didn't work.
Cannon says, who do you think leads the team in basketball points, rebounds, blocks per game? I think points to me is Blackwell.
Yep.
Rebounds is Winter. I think blocks is Winter too.
Yep.
I think those are kind of almost locks in those categories. I'm going to be completely honest.
The only person, I'd be shocked if it's not Blackwell. The only person who might be able to track with him is Boyd. I don't think Winter gets quite that high this year, but I think he's going to be a better all-around player than either of the other two.
I think Winter's the best player on this team. Low key. That's my early. We'll see what happens. I think Winter is poised for
I think this is the year he takes off. He would be normally a redshirt sophomore right now. So he would. This is the year you probably expect him to come out and just explode.
Yeah, Mitch, tell me Iowa State is more than offered to Wisconsin. That's another great example of a program that has remained relevant despite NIL, portal. You can do it.
Really good coach, really good quarterback evaluator.
Yeah. Listen, Wisconsin is still the only D1 program in a big state that's football crazy, great resource. I mean, facility, stadium, history, tradition in the Big Ten. This can work. I promise you guys this can work. All right, let's hit the next one here. Again, we got a bunch of questions in here, which I super appreciate, and we'll try to get to every single one of them. Basketball question. This is from AJ Verge. Basketball question. Who starts the year as the sixth man, and who do you think will end the year as the sixth man? I think this one's interesting, Justin. I have a couple ideas. I don't know if you want me to take it or you want to take it.
No, you go ahead and lead it off because I need to think about this.
So my first thought, the sixth man is actually interesting. So my first thought, a lot of times the sixth man is a guard coming off the bench. And I think Braden Carrington could actually be that guy. I don't think he'll be sixth on the team in minutes played, but he can play the 1, the 2, the 3. He's a veteran. He's a defensive guy. You can bring him in for Boyd and shift Blackwell to the 1. You can bring him in for Blackwell. You can bring him in at the 3 because he's big enough and physical enough. Carrington is my first thought. If it's not him, I think it might be Janicki. I think Janicki might come in as a guy who can play 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can shift things around him. So those are my first two thoughts.
You've seen more of him than I have. Do you think Kinziger has any chance of getting involved in this at all?
Not in the six-man role. I do think he's going to play this year.
Okay.
But not to that level.
Yeah, I see people who say Neza saying don't say Janicki. Listen, you have to take the good with the bad there. Keep in mind, was he a true sophomore or a redshirt sophomore last year?
Redshirt sophomore. He was a younger player, and he hadn't played much before that.
Yeah.
The thing with Janicki is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump, but the one thing with Janicki is the court vision. If you look at his assist to turnover ratio, if you prorate that out to a certain amount of minutes, like he's a really smart player, and he can cover a couple different spots, and he can shoot the ball a little bit. Not from the free throw line yet, weirdly, but he can shoot the ball a little bit. So I think he's a better player than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I think this is the year where it slows down for him and he starts to look more consistent and competent. There were times where he just would make dumb decisions last year, and it showed that he was young. And I think a lot of that gets cleaned up this year now that things are kind of like he's got his legs under him, because there's a lot of smart, intelligent player things that he does on a regular basis that a lot of players don't in college basketball. So I do expect a step from him. Some of the shooting needs to come around. Like he definitely has times where he's lights out, and then he has times when he's really cold.
Alien Space says Showalter was better than Janicki. Not sophomore Showalter, but that's the thing. Not
a much better athlete though too. So
he was a better athlete, but again, not like early Showalter. You're thinking of like late Showalter where he was better. But I think Janicki can grow into a version of that.
This is roughly the year I think when Showalter took off.
Mm-hmm.
Was coming into the season that we're going to be seeing with Janicki this year.
Pizzle says, are you ever going to make a women's softball tab in the Discord? Pizzle, you might want to go check the Discord. There might be a present waiting for you under the old thread tree there. Donnie says, does this coaching staff know how to evaluate talent, Justin, both in recruiting and in camp? I think the camp one's interesting.
So I will say Ryan and I still agree that there's talent on this. There's athleticism and athletes on this roster. Now, it's the same thing that you can always say coming in. Does the athleticism translate into being a good football player? And I think that's where you're kind of seeing some of the disconnect potentially here. Is you have really good athletes that need to clean it up and become good football players. And I don't think it's an evaluation issue. I think it's a coaching issue right now. I think there is talent on this team. It's albeit young talent. You're probably next year's when you'd expect it to really come together with a good coaching staff. We'll see what this staff can do. But I think there's players on this, and I don't love the way that a lot of it's being coached right now.
I think that's a fair point. I do think in recruiting, this staff does just fine. I think they do more than just fine for Wisconsin. You can win, I think, with the pieces they bring in. I think the camp part of that question, I'm going to put that question back up, is a little interesting to me, because then you really start to get into, is this staff starting the right pieces potentially? And you look at a Davis Heinzen situation, which is a good one. You look at maybe last year when we all kind of thought, why is Christian Allegro not playing more? Right? He's pretty clearly really talented. He should get more impressed.
Clayton this year.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting one. It does feel like maybe they're a little stubborn to make changes. And I don't know if that's true, but
worst case scenario with Clayton this year, every once in a while, throw his energy out there after Reiger's starting to get a little taxed. Because I will guarantee you, when Reiger starts getting tired, you bring someone like Clayton in who's even got another step on him. That is something that is the type of thing that a tackle gets jarred by the level of burst that a guy has. And that is something Clayton can do. Like, I watched him that last game against Maryland, the right tackle when he was, or the play that he was in, was it Maryland or the game before? The game, I can't remember which one. I think it was Maryland.
It was Maryland.
One play. And he absolutely just came in on him. And he didn't get home, but he absolutely got in the quarterback's face enough to make him get rid of that football. And that's the type of thing that Clayton does. Even when he doesn't get home, he makes you very aware that you're there.
Yeah. He's got afterburners, man. Zach Bart's good friend of the show, talking about the recruiting. He said, look at some of the offers. It's not like we're beating out Central Michigan and Buffalo. These are legit offer lists that we just flat out beat some good teams to get these guys. I think it's completely fair. I don't have an issue with recruiting. I'll say that. King 2296 says, if we win a big game or two this season, does that turn the tide for Fickell? Does he get more of a leash with a noticeable improvement of play from the team the rest of the year? For me, it's yes. I mean, the simple answer to that is yes. If he wins a couple big games and they play better, I think then you look at, because here's the thing, people are, I say people, when I say people, I mean people that are going to make this decision. They want a reason to keep Fickell because they don't want to pay a $25 million buyout. They don't want to do another coaching search. And some people don't want egg on their faces, Justin. So they want a reason.
And I think the other part of this is pretty simple. If you win a couple of big games, it means you grew as a team. Like, you're not winning what we saw the first two losses, that is not beating any of the teams that are remaining on the schedule. So if that's the level of play that you get, we're going 2-10. I'm just going to be blunt with you. If we win a couple of big games, that means that they clearly got better and came together, which is what we've been screaming for with this staff. We need to see guys look better. And that means I'll take whatever it is. I'll take it. I probably will be indifferent to it. I'm not going to be excited about it, but it will mean that I will be willing to at least accept, all right, we're seeing something moving in the right direction. It's not moving remotely fast enough for my taste, which is why I'm getting really frustrated with it, but it is what it is at this point. I'll accept the fact that it's moving in the right direction. I will say this, you don't get to have a down year next year then, if that's what happens. Like, you better hit the ground running next year, because you don't get another year of we're just figuring things out going forward. That's unacceptable at this point.
I agree. Especially that schedule in the Big Ten lightens up. Curious if you agree with this point from Neza. Big games equal OSU and Oregon. Iowa and Minnesota are medium games.
Not at this point.
I would throw Illinois and Indiana in that. I feel like if you were to beat Indiana at this point, that's a big game to me.
Oh, absolutely. There's a chance that we lose by 30 in that game.
They could house us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. First of all, Signetti is the type of guy who
he wants to. Here's what I'll say. I think he's a guy who truly understands if we're going to get enough respect to be a lock for the playoffs, we have got to have as many games that catch attention as possible. And that's why he did not take his foot off the gas in that game against Illinois, because I think he looked at it and be like, we're blowing these guys out. Keep the foot down, because this is going to be a talking point on Sunday after this game, where everyone's going to look at it and be like, that was a top 10 Illinois team that they beat by 50 points.
Yeah. But by the way, them going into Iowa and winning that game, that's
really
real.
impressive. Iowa's a really tough place to play.
That's real, man. Juice says, do you think Fickell is making poor choices, leaving Renfro in the Alabama game, playing Billy before ready, weird clock management out of desperation, or is decision-making just an inherent issue? In other words, is he almost making desperate choices, which is making this look worse, or is he just not a good in-game coach?
I think he's overwhelmed. Like, I think it's stacking up for him at this point where there's a little here we go again. And we've talked about this. This staff is rattled. Like, nothing that they see is working. And especially when you hear things like, this isn't what we're seeing in practice. It's not translating the way it should. And that tells me that the coaches are kind of throwing their hands up a little bit, because they're like, I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't look like this when we're practicing it. But yeah, for whatever reason, when we get into the game, it just falls apart. And if that's the case, as a coach, you're probably overwhelmed and trying to think of, basically a boat that's sinking, trying to put a finger in a hole for each hole that's going on there. You lose track of things. It's really hard to stay on top of everything. And the ones that are doing it, it's typically because they're winning. Like, it's easy to stay calm when you're kicking the crap out of the other team that you're playing.
Yeah, I think you hit it, actually. Some people in the chat talking about Fickell's in-game management, not a huge fan. Alien Space, Bo Dragon, and Jason Geldon. I think you kind of hit it. They seem rattled, right? And because of that, they seem like it doesn't seem like when you're really confident in what you do, you just go back to your scheme, your system, and you believe it's going to work. And we didn't see that against Maryland, Justin. What did Jeff Grimes go back to? He went back to like everything you drop in the playground. It wasn't like, hey, let's go run inside our outside zone. Let's trust what we can do here. It was, we're going to pitch it to Yakimelli to throw it back to the quarterback. We're going to let Tyrell I think you hit it. I think they're a little rattled, and they're not confident in what they're doing right now. And we see that. And by the way, if your leaders aren't confident, then your players aren't going to be either.
Well, that's what I said. It's a military thing. If your players represent what your coaching is, so they follow what their leadership is. So right now, the leadership seems like they are lost, and that's what we're seeing on the field.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think there's a lot of truth there. I love this question from ATX Badger. Davison, Great Guard's heir? Could Brad Davidson
We're
be
a long ways off on that, because Guard's probably not going anywhere for 10 years.
Which gives Brad 10 years to season, to cook in the crock pot.
I think he needs to go someplace else and head coach then for a bit.
Great Guard never did.
He's young enough. Come on, man.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, you could say that, but I would prefer to have somebody that we know is a known quantity, rather than we talked about it when I was bringing it up for the football team. Like, if you're replacing Fickell, I don't want the next great offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator that's getting a head coaching gig. I want somebody who's head coached, that knows how to put together, that has his staff and is coming in and is locked in and stable, rather than having somebody kind of throwing it all together at once.
Tyler says Krabbenhoff, no. The only thing I would say yes, except I think Guard's going to I think Krabbenhoff is eventually going to want to go somewhere, and I'm not sure he's going to wait for this job to open up. If it were to open up tomorrow, it would be Krabbenhoff.
Like, he's probably within the next 5 years going to be a head coach somewhere.
I think so. Badgerman says yes, Brad is the next coach. Mitch says Krabbenhoff. A bunch of people in the chat talking about donors. I love this. There's people in chat talking about like marrying rich donors so we can get in on the money. Dennis Reynolds, take one for the team. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother. Let's go on to our next question here. This is probably for me. Jesse Y, have you seen Gavin Gord's play in person in Cumberland? I have. I've also talked to him. What kind of players is Wyoming getting? Future Badgers transfer in 2 years? Possibly. He's kind of an athletic, springy 4. He's a little undersized for the 5, and he doesn't quite shoot it well enough as the 4 yet to be like a high level guy. But if that develops,
mechanics,
they're okay. The shot. He also played in it's not great basketball in Cumberland, so like they would throw it to him, he'd get triple teamed, he'd get beaten up. Like if people are familiar with the level of basketball,
like a rugby scrum. Yeah, I've played in a couple leagues like that.
Dude, he's going up against like wrestlers that are like from Spooner, and they're just like hard tying them using the fouls.
The schools that have like a class of like 60 or 70, and it's like these guys play all football and basketball and everything else.
I will say this. I really do like some of the tools Gavin Gores has. And in 2 years, I could definitely see him developing to something that is at least going to really be an interest to the higher level P4 teams. Bill Woj, if Grimes and Blazic are serious about developing a young offensive line in season, what type of play should we be seeing on Saturday against Michigan versus what we saw against Maryland?
Outside zone constantly. Keep doing it until they get it right at this point. You have to hope that they experience some success in game. And that to me, that's the one thing I will say that Chris did correctly at times was that they would just keep running it until eventually it started to work. But you needed to move off of it once it started working. Like you have to supplement that with other things. That's where Chris struggled. So right now you need to just establish a foundation of what you do well as an offense. We don't have anything. And part of it was because we were getting stuff blown up. And I think like the last few games, my perspective on it was, okay, you're getting blown up by Maryland. Just run the football. Like what's the worst case scenario here? You punt on 3rd down? You've been doing that all game. Like at least get better at it rather than having a 19-yard loss on a play where your quarterback's running around who looks like he's playing backyard football. Like just keep running it and get these guys reps so mentally you can at least go, okay, he looked better on that one. He understood what he was supposed to be doing. He's seeing things correctly. When you run plays consistently, you get to then look more at what the defense is doing in those situations. You get a better idea of how you're supposed to attack it. And it's just an experience thing. You don't get that when you're constantly jumping to all these different random, trick plays and stuff like that.
It was too much. It was too much. I think you and I both agree there. Egan says, what are the keys to playing well at Michigan? For me, like, you got to start a little faster. And I know that's been talked about. You cannot go to Michigan coming off a bye, getting walloped by Maryland, dude. Come out in the first quarter and be down 14-0, 10-0. It'll be the most deflating thing ever. If you come out and play well in that first quarter, I'm serious. If they come out and play well in that first quarter and the rush defense looks like it traveled, that could be a game because Michigan's not going to take this seriously at this point.
Oh yeah, they're expecting to beat us by double digits. Like they're expecting to just come in and they're like, we can run the football and just win this.
Yeah, I think you got to start fast. And then the other part I'll add, and I'll kick it to you. Whatever quarter, I think it's going to be Daniel O'Neal, but develop a game plan for whatever quarterback you have and just let him play. This shifting between we're going to play Billy, we're not going to play Danny. So because of that, we're not going to give him all the reps. Like I thought that was a major mistake. Just if it's going to be Danny, dude, quick, one side of the field, move the pocket, simple, easy throws for him, and then that's it.
Well, and then Danny, for the love of God, you need to, if you're going to be a one read quarterback, then your second read needs to at least be your dump off. Like you've got to get rid of that to your safety valve. That's where you're terrible. Like there are times just check down, take the 5 yards, get it to whoever and just be like, all right, live to play another day. Don't keep looking to try and force plays because when you sit there, keep staring downfield looking for stuff or stare blankly at the same guy and realize he's not open, you're done. Like it boggles my mind when quarterbacks can't figure out how to do that. It's like, how hard is it to go from that one guy down to the last guy who's probably not covered?
I think it's harder when you're getting hit every other play. I will say that to
Daniel. But if you're getting the ball out quick, like it doesn't take that long. Most of our throws are not, and some of them probably are longer developing plays, but we run a lot of slants and stuff too. And there's a lot of RPO in this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Danny's got to be better. There's no doubt about it. No argument there. A couple of quick comments here. James says with Davidson, maybe the hard-nosed defense might improve. Tyler Strieber says Big Cat was working on the Chinese national, the guy who like founded Temu. He's worth 45 billion. What's the progress on that? Question mark. Can I tell you really quick? I almost thought about like I should try to reach out to this guy and then I said, oh man, I have a security clearance. That guy's a
Don't do that.
Chinese billionaire.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose my security clearance over this Badger gig. So I'm not gonna reach out. I don't expect anything to happen there. That's just me.
Yeah.
I expect
Yeah, I think that's more tongue in cheek from Big Cat. It would be nice though if he could just hand over like 20 million and be like, take it and leave me alone.
He doesn't scream the type of guy who's a big Badger football fan.
He's an academics guy. I don't expect anything from that. Listen, that's part of the problem. That's kind of been the thing that we've heard long term on Wisconsin for a while. Is people say that it's a lot more academics coming out of Wisconsin than people who are huge sports fans, the ones that are ultra successful. There are some people who obviously are bigger donors, really put money in. Kellner's the prime example. He's constantly doing things for the team. But you could use a couple more, and you could use somebody that's worth, if somebody wants to turn me into like a 4 or 5 billionaire, I'll go out there and I will gladly give $750 million to Wisconsin football and just be like, all right, I'm hiring you an accountant who's going to sit on your shoulder and make sure that you're not throwing my money away. But here you go. You've got a blank checkbook. Go to work.
Let's hope that happens. Let's hope somebody does make you a 4 or 5.
I don't have anything to offer that makes me worth even remotely that.
Same.
My body could be made out of straight up platinum, and I still wouldn't be worth that.
I think Wisconsin should hire Raul. We need a spreadsheet of rich people live in Wisconsin. People went to Wisconsin and are from Wisconsin to donate. Let's get that man in the building. Derek, leaving for the Michigan game on Thursday. Let's go, buddy. Let's go up there, crush it. Hope we get a great win up there. I know nobody expects it, and I don't either. Tennis. First, Justin gets $4 billion. Then it's easy street. Simple.
That's the plan, everybody.
Oh, man. All right, we're going to wrap it there. We got through every single question that was submitted in the Discord or on Twitter. A little longer than normal, but appreciate everybody sticking with us. We'll continue to do these mailbag shows as well on Wisconsin. Thank you so much as always. Some fun content coming up. I think we got Donovan Dunmore probably coming up. I think Payne from 247 will be coming up this week. A Michigan Insider's coming up. So some big-time content. And go check out the Bucket Report with Justin and Rajiv as well. I think they'll be releasing your 3 big things tomorrow.
Yeah. I have to talk to Rajiv about it, but we should be putting another one up.
Go check them out as well. Appreciate every single one of you on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk later.